Welcome into another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast on Sports Illustrated from the Fans First Sports Network. Today is Monday, November 25th. Doing a little bit of a little rivalry cleanup between the Bruins and Trojans from their crosstown showdown in a 19-13 loss for the Bruins on Saturday night. And then we're going to take a look at what head coach Deshaun Foster had to say post-game following his first rivalry loss as head coach. He's been a part of it, this game specifically for a long time, dating back to the late 90s when he was a running back from back in 1998. Follow myself, Tom Cavanaugh, at TCav30 on Twitter/X. You can follow our insider pages at Bruins Insider or at UCLA Insider on SI. That's both on Twitter/X and Facebook. And then type into your search bar UCLA Bruins Sports Illustrated, and you'll find all of our content on a daily basis. So to just kind of recap in a very short form what we were talking about a lot the other day, this team for the Bruins pretty much outplayed the Trojans for a good majority of the game, but a 10-0 fourth quarter in favor of the Trojans was the difference. USC scored 10 points in their final two drives, and that was really the difference. Bruins had a 13-9 lead. We're just kind of clinging to that 4-point advantage, and USC finally got hot. They scored their first touchdown late and then tacked on a field goal after the Bruins turned it over on downs on a failed QB sneak attempt. So overall, I mean, when you look at the numbers, UCLA outgained the Trojans in almost every single stat besides the scoreboard. So when you take from this loss, there were things that the Bruins could have done better when it comes to executing on fourth down. They were 0 for 3 in that category. But even getting to those fourth down plays, I mean, should have been avoided too. You give credit to the USC defense for bowing up, playing very well. But UCLA, there were times when they had opportunities to really capitalize, put their foot on the throat of the Trojans, score a touchdown, and penalty here, sack there, another penalty here, kind of backed them up or put them in a tougher position to be able to score those points and take a more commanding lead because they were up, they were winning at the time, 10-9 before they kicked their field goal to go up by 4. Had the ball at the 4-yard line, penalty and a sack brought them back, and they ended up kicking the field goal, going up by 4, and that's all she wrote. That was just enough for the Trojans to be able to put up 2 scores and win the game by 6. Head coach Deshaun Foster did speak post-game, and he talked about a few different things. But as we mentioned, he's been a part of this rivalry game. He was visibly frustrated just because he'd wanted this all year long. This was the biggest game of the season. Not to mention, this was a game that would have helped and probably would have gotten the Bruins into a bowl game, considering they have to play Fresno State next week, who's not a slouch of a team, but the Bruins could beat them. But yeah, he spoke on how well the defense played. I mean, that's probably the best part of the game for the Bruins. Their offense, even though they did kind of post big numbers, they just didn't put any points on the board, which was very odd to see considering they had over 250 passing yards. TJ Harden, the running back, had just under 100 yards on the ground. So very, very uncharacteristic, but also at the same time, it is par for the course because the Bruins in past games recently have had trouble punching it in the red zone and in clutch moments, much like it was last week, 2 weeks ago now, against the Huskies. He also gave praise to senior quarterback Ethan Garbers, who was starting in his second straight crosstown showdown. Garbers got the best of the Trojans last year, throwing 3 touchdown passes. This year, not so lucky. He put up more passing yards, 2 less touchdowns in this game. He was very good at not turning the ball over, but the one thing that Foster really credited him for was being a gamer, always being positive, having that attitude, picking the guys up on the sideline no matter what was going on during the ball game. A very short memory kind of quarterback that did not dwell on the positives nor the negatives and just looked down to the next play. Foster definitely going to miss having Garbers on his sideline because Deshaun was the running backs coach, so he worked alongside Ethan a little bit as well over the last couple of years when he was a young player. Then Ethan became that starter last year. Foster brought into this role this year, and those two have kind of been hip to hip pretty much through Garber's entire career. So he gave him a lot of credit. And looking forward, the Bruins, as we mentioned, going to play Fresno State. They're going to have to finish out their season on a high note. Another thing that Foster talked about, he was kind of frustrated about too, is obviously it's a rivalry game. You want to win this, take down the team from across the city of Los Angeles, but you're no longer able to play any extra football during the holidays. When Ethan Garber spoke earlier in the week, he said that when the team started out 1-5, they set a midseason goal for themselves to become bowl eligible. And what that was going to take was winning 5 out of your last 6 games. They lost to Washington last week, and they just got the game kind of stolen from them a little bit, swept from underneath their feet. In the last 8 minutes of the game is when the Trojans put all 10 of those points together to take the lead and win. But yeah, it's definitely a stinger for this team not being able to have a couple extra practices, play another 4 quarters of football in a bowl game against a team you wouldn't normally play against. So they're going to have to play the Bulldogs of Fresno State, who did beat Colorado State this past weekend. They're 6-5, and it should be a good one. Hopefully the Bruins can go out on a high note. We'll see a lot of senior action. Logan Loya, Maliki Matavao, also Garbers. Those are like the 3 main. Keegan Jones as well. He's a running back. That's a senior. So those guys going to be used heavily inside that offense attack. Josh Carlin on the offensive line. We talked about him earlier this week. Kane Medrano, one of the main linebackers as well. He's a senior in his last game, going to be at the Rose Bowl this weekend. So going forward, this Bruins team, it sucks to lose this game. But there's things to learn from it, and especially for head coach Deshaun Foster, because there's going to be several more seasons with him at the helm, and I can only see this program getting better as his time develops with the program. And he's picking up more recruits. We'll talk about that more during the week. There's several offers, commitments that have been unfolding over the last couple of days that we really got to key in on, because the next couple teams for the Bruins could jump out at you and compete for a Big Ten title. This has been the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast on Sports Illustrated from Fans First Sports Network. I'm Tom Cavanaugh saying so long. We will see you again tomorrow. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good night.